Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining this morning. Srimad Bhagavatam class, 10th Japa. So let's make a start. And we are on part 6 of the conversation between Narada Muni and Parcinabarhi. And it's been quite a long advice conversation from Narada Muni, and hopefully it will be fruitful for King Parcinabarhi. So let's see in this conversation of this part today what happens. So let's continue. Hare Krishna, everyone. So Krishna consciousness means constantly associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is Narada Muni explaining. In such a mental state that the devotee can observe the cosmic manifestation exactly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead does. Such observation is not always possible, but it becomes manifest exactly like the dark planet known as Rahu, which is observed in the presence of the full moon. So it'll be explained a bit further up what that means. Let's do a quick prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukroti Vachalam Pangum Langate Grim Yat Kirpata Bhamande Shri Gurun Din Taranam Pramananda Madhamam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram Hari Om Tassat Narayam Namaskritya Dharam Cheva Narotmam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaya Madhuriyat Nashta Presha Abadreshu Nitam Bhagavad Sevya Bhagavati Uttam Shlokya Bhakti Bhakti Nistiki. Jai. So as long as there exists the subtle material body composed of intelligence, mind, senses, sense objects, and the reactions of the material qualities, the consciousness of false identification and its relative objects, the gross body, exist as well. So the desires in the subtle mind of intelligence and ego cannot be filled without a gross body composed of the material elements, which include earth, water, air, fire, and ether. So the gross body has desires, and to fill them, it needs a certain type of body, preferably a human body. When the gross body is not manifest, the living entity cannot factually act in the modes of material nature, because mode of the material nature only affect the material body. In this verse, it is clearly explained that the subtle activities of the mind and intelligence continue due to the sufferings and enjoyments of the living entity's subtle body. The consciousness of material identification, such as I and mind, still continues because such consciousness has been extant from time immemorial. However, when one transfers to the spiritual world by virtue of understanding Krishna consciousness, the actions and reactions of both gross and subtle bodies no longer bother the spirit soul, because so there's no tinge of material. Gross is material and subtle is also material. So, but when we go into the spiritual world, there's no need for these. It's totally spiritual. Only spiritual being goes back to the spiritual world. There is no material there. When the living entity is in deep sleep, when he faints, when there is some great shock on account of severe loss at the time of death, or when the body temperature is very high, the movement of the life air is arrested. At that time, the living entity loses knowledge of identifying the body with the self. So we have occasions where we might not be able to identify with the body, but most time we do. When one is a youth, all the 10 senses and the mind are completely visible. However, in the mother's womb or in the boyhood state, the sense organs and the mind remain covered, just as the full moon is covered by the darkness of the dark moon night. When the living entity dreams, the sense objects are not actually present. However, because one is associated with the sense objects, they become manifest. Similarly, the living entity with undeveloped senses does not cease to exist materially, even though he may not be exactly in contact with the sense objects. So it is sometimes said that because a child is innocent, he is completely pure. Actually, this is not the fact. The effects of fruitive activities reserved in the subtle body appear in the three concurrent stages. One is called bij, the root, another is called the kut, stha, the desire, and another is called the phalan mukha, about to fructify. So even though somebody might be a child, but all these desires are still there from previous life. He still has desires which just have not fructified yet, but the desires are there in his consciousness. The manifest stage is called prarabdha, already in action. In a conscious or unconscious state, the actions of the subtle or gross bodies may not be manifest, but such states cannot be called the liberated state. So a child may be innocent, but this does not mean that he's a liberated soul. So that's the point. So the child his all his senses have not developed yet, according to his size or his body or his age. But that doesn't mean he's liberated. There's coming. He'll be changing as he grows up. Everything is held in reservation. That's the key. And everything will become manifest in due course of time. Even in the absence of certain manifestation in the subtle body, the objects of sense enjoyment may act. The example is being given of a nocturnal, in which physical senses are even act even when the physical objects are not manifest. The three modes of material nature may not be manifest in the subtle body, but the contamination of the three modes remains conserved. And in due course of time, it becomes manifest, even if the reactions of the subtle and gross bodies are not manifest. One does not become free from the material conditions. Therefore, it is wrong to say that a child is good as a liberated soul. So that explains that a child seems innocent because he's not thinking or desiring certain things at the time, but with time, it's all reserved inside and it starts to manifest. The five sense objects, the five sense organs, the five knowledge acquiring senses, and the mind are the 16 material expansions. That includes the mind. These combine with the living entity and are influenced by the three modes of material nature. Thus, the existence of the conditioned soul is understood. By virtue of the process of the subtle body, the living entity develops and gives up gross bodies. This is known as the transmigration of the soul. Thus, the soul becomes subjected to different types of so-called enjoyment. So according to our desires, according to our enjoyment, the subtle body keeps taking on different gross bodies that we know. According to this explanation, one can clearly understand that originally the living entity was good as the Supreme Personality Godhead in his pure spiritual existence. So originally we were pure, we only had spiritual desires, but with time and with coming in touch with the material energy, we have become more and more contaminated. And it's like since time immemorial, our desires keep increasing or they keep changing. one thing after another, one thing after another. It's endless. It's an endless cycle. However, so However, when the mind becomes polluted by desires for sense gratification in the material world, the living entity drops into the material conditions, as explained in this verse. Thus, he begins his material existence, which means that he transmigrates from one body to another and becomes more and more entangled in material existence. The process of Krishna consciousness by which one always thinks of Krishna is the transcendental process by which one can revert to his original spiritual existence. Devotional service means always thinking of Krishna. So this Krishna consciousness is like an antidote or medicine that we need to undo what's been done since time memorial. So it's so powerful that what's been done for millions and millions of lives, it will be undone. The knots will be untied. That we really have got ourselves in a knot, so to speak, in a tangle, and the only process is Krishna consciousness and devotional service to Krishna that will take away all the effects, all the illusion, all the poison that we have created in contamination of material energy. So we need this process to do that. And what's the way? Devotional service means always thinking of Krishna. Man mana bhav mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskru mam aveshasi satyam te pratijane priyo si me. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, let's stop thinking about material life, material enjoyment, material gratification, and material attachments. Think of me. So whatever you think of, you become, right? So think of Krishna and you become spiritualized. Always think of Krishna. Spend most of your time thinking about Krishna and you'll be spiritualized and material effects will get less and less. So it's not, as we discussed so many times, it's not about becoming detached from material life. It's very difficult to become detached from material life because we have a material body and we are illusioned by material energy. So very difficult. So Krishna consciousness is not about becoming detached, it's about becoming attached. So if you become attached to Krishna, then the detachment will automatically take place. The material energy will release us. The more we become attached, in that proportion, the material energy will release us. So if we are attached to Krishna, say 20%, then that means we're only attached to material energy now 80%. So if you attach to Krishna 50%, then material energy is only acting as 50%. It's like that. So when we can always think of Krishna and worship him, then material energy will not have any effect on us. So Narada continues, the caterpillar transports from one leaf to another by capturing one leaf before giving up the other. Similarly, so here's the example. Similarly, according to his previous work, the living entity must capture another body before giving up the one he has. This is because the mind is the reservoir of all kinds of desires. A living entity too much absorbed in material activity becomes very much attracted to the material body. Even at the time of death, he thinks of his present body and the relatives connected to it. Thus, he remains fully absorbed in the material conception of life. So much so that even at the time of death, he abhors leaving his present body. Sometimes it is found that a person on the verge of death remains in a coma for many days before giving up the body. This is common among so-called leaders and politicians who think that without their presence, the entire country and all society will be in chaos. This is called Maya. Political leaders do not like to leave their political post. And they either have to be shot by an enemy or obliged to leave by the arrival of death. So yeah, these people think that if they weren't here, the world would come to an end, but that is not the case. There's always someone who can replace them. By superior arrangement, a living entity is offered another body. But because of his attraction to the present body, he doesn't like to transfer himself into another body. Thus, he is forced to accept another body by the laws of nature. Prakriti krimanani guna karmani sarvashaha ankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried by nature. Excuse me. So that's the evidence of Bhagavad-Gita, that we think we are the doers, but we are not. We are desiring this, and material nature is helping us to do this, that's all. So as long as we desire to enjoy sense gratification, we create material activities. When the living entity acts in the material field, he enjoys the senses, and while enjoying the senses, he creates another series of material activities. In this way, the living entity becomes entrapped as a conditioned soul. So you should always know that this cosmic manifestation is created, maintained, annihilated by the will of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Consequently, everything within this cosmic manifestation is under the control of the Lord. So everything, all our movement, everything is controlled. We think we are controlling, we are doing, but even my hand movement is controlled by the Lord. I can only desire to move my hand, but Krishna doesn't want me to move my hand, it won't move. So we just desiring, right, I want to move. Material nature helps me to do it under the guidance of Krishna. To be enlightened by this perfect knowledge, one should always engage himself in the devotion service of the Lord. So now we're just going back to Sage Maitreya, because he's telling Vidur about what Narada is telling King Parcinabarhi. So the great sage Maitreya continued, the supreme devotee, the great saint Narada, thus explained to King Parcinabarhi the constitutional position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the constitutional position of the living entity. After giving an invitation to the king, Narada Muni left to return to Siddhalok. So all these weeks, for the last 6 weeks, we have been discussing this. We've been discussing the instructions of Narada Muni to King Parcinabarhi. And then now, Narada Muni has given him all the instructions, and he go back to Siddhalok. Why does he go back to Siddhalok? Siddhalok and Brahmalok are both within the same planetary system. Brahmalok is understood to be the highest planet within the universe. Siddhalok is considered to be one of the satellites of Brahmalok. So it revolves around Brahmalok. The inhabitants of Siddhalok have all the powers of yogic mysticism. From this verse, it appears that the great sage Narada is an inhabitant of Siddhalok. Although he travels to all the planetary systems and all the residents of Siddhalok are spacemen, they can travel in space without mechanical help. The residents of Siddhalok can go from one planet to another individually by virtue of their yogic perfection. After giving instructions to the great King Parcinabarhi, Narada Muni departed and also invited him to Siddhalok. That's amazing. So not only has he given him instructions, he has invited him to come to where he resides, to his home. In the presence of his ministers, now what does the king do after Narada Muni has left? In the presence of his ministers, the saintly King Parcinabarhi left orders for his sons to protect the citizens. He then left home and went off to undergo austerities in a holy place known as Kapila Ashram. Having undergone austerities and penance at the Kapila Ashram, King Parcinabarhi attained full liberation from all material designations. So even kings, such high caliber, you see all these personalities, they have to go through a process. Even Kapil Dev Muni, he went through a process. They all have to go through a process. It's like, in today's world, you could see like somebody's become radioactive. They have to go through a process before they can move on. Take off all the radioactivity they are contaminated with. So I guess they are taking off the material pollution from their body before they move on to the next stage from their consciousness, I guess, because the body will be left here anyway. They take off the pollution from the consciousness so they can move on. So there's no bondage, there is no attachment to this world. He constantly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord and attained a spiritual position qualitatively equal to that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he has managed to purify himself. And Sage Mehta says, my dear Vidur, one who hears this narration concerning the understanding of the living entity's spiritual existence, as described by the great sage Narada, or who relates to it to others, will be liberated from the bodily conception of life. So that was the advice from Narad Muni to King to how to become liberated from the bodily conception and come back to his planet. This material creation is the spirit soul's dream. Actually, all existences in the material world is a dream of Mahavishnu, as the Brahma Samhita describes. So this material creation illusion is the dream of Mahavishnu. He's dreaming, and then all the living entities are fired into there. Yaha Karan A Nava Chal Bhajati Sma Yoga Nindram Ananta Jagat Anda Saroma Kupha. So this world is created by the dream of Mahavishnu. The real factual platform is the spiritual world. But when the spirit soul wants to imitate the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is put into this dreamland of material creation. So this is an illusion. It's a dream. We call it pipe dream of the spirit soul. So he's put into this dream world. So he can dream that he's the controller, he's the proprietor, and the doer. After being in contact with the material modes of nature, the living entity develops the subtle and gross bodies. So originally, the spirit soul is just spirit. But after coming in contact with material modes of nature, he develops the subtle and gross bodies. This is why when we leave the material world, we leave the subtle and gross bodies. We got them here from this world, and we will leave them in this world if we are to go back to the spiritual world. When the living entity is fortunate enough to associate with Sri Narada Mahamuni or his servants, he is liberated from his dreamland of material creation and the bodily conception of life. So this narration spoken by the great sage Narada is full of transcendental fame, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, this narration, when described, certainly sanctifies this material world. It purifies the heart of the living entity and helps him attain his spiritual identity. One who relates this transcendental narration will be liberated from all material bondage and will no longer have to wander within this material world. This indicates that Narad Muni advised King Parcinabarhi to take to devotion service rather than waste time performing ritualistic ceremonies and fruity activities. The vivid description of the subtle and gross bodies in this chapter are more scientific. And because they are given by the great sage Narada, they are authoritative. Because these narrations are full of glory to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they constitute the most effective process for the purification of the mind. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. The more we talk of Krishna, think of Krishna, and preach of Krishna, the more we become purified. This means we no longer have to accept a hallucinatory, gross, and subtle body, but instead attain a spiritual identity. So thank you so much. I found this very interesting. That, like I said before, that we only think about the gross body, but we have also acquired this subtle body as well, mind, intelligence, and false ego. It has covered us. So not only are we to give up the material body, which is easy, right? Easy to give up the material body. When we die, it will be automatically given up. We don't even have to try. Eventually, we know it will be given up. We have given up before in previous lives, and we'll give up again in this life, getting older and older. Not that age matters so much, but for definite, with age, we will give up this body. But don't forget that we have to give up the subtle body as well. So that's what we're aiming for. Not only give the material, the gross body, we have to give up the subtle body. And that subtle body can only be given up through Krishna consciousness, through devotion service, because otherwise that body will, even after we're dead, the subtle body will still be there, and it will be acquiring a new gross body, and it goes on and on and on. So thank you all so much for joining. My Father Loji, Hina Mataji, Jai Prabhu, Madhav Sham Sundar Prabhu, and Praveen Mataji. Hare Krishna. I don't know what happened today to our Speshi Mataji, but anyway, thank you all so much for being here. Like to hear from he knew it was coming, so he's left. No problem. We'll go to Hina Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. Such a nice verse, and so very instructive as well. Some really nice points from Narada Muni here around 3 gunas, 3 modes of material nature, and how strong they are. And you kind of emphasize how, life after life, our material desires almost follow us, really, like in our various forms. These material desires remain, we kind of remain contaminated, really, until that cycle is broken. So, we're here, and it kind of made me realize that, we are life after life, we're going round and round. I know Srila Prabhupada used to explain it as almost like we're chewing the chewed. We're still trying to enjoy ourselves as much as we can. And it's a little bit like Groundhog Day. There's a movie called Groundhog Day where a man wakes up and lives the same life every day until he changes himself. And it's a bit like that. We are trapped, but we're almost trapped life after life doing the same thing, not knowing how to get out. And very few of us, and very few fortunate souls kind of realize, or not realize, but are blessed to get the mercy and get the knowledge around how to get out of this. And it's happened by the will of the Lord. Really, we are completely helpless. It's only when our soul turns to Him, and we're blessed through association of the devotees that we get that mercy. So I felt, and just listening to you there as well, around, it just emphasizes how important it is to develop our devotion to the Lord. That's the number one priority, really, to get purified. And it also made me realize, Prabhu, from what you were saying, that a measure of our Krishna consciousness can be measured in the reduction of our material desires. Krishna consciousness gives us a higher taste. So the more we take of that, the less we're almost able to let go of our material desires. So those are my realizations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, a good example there of that movie. This is the thing, but I mean, he actually could remember, but our problem is that we forget, what we did in the past life. But he was, I think in this movie, was he waking up, or after, I think he was sleeping and then waking up, back to the same life. And there's another movie, The Edge of Tomorrow, where Tom Cruise actually dies and he comes back again and again and again. It's like that. But so that's our situation now. We die and we come back again, just continuing on where we left off. But we forget, that we made so many mistakes last time, and we probably, time of death, we probably thought, we might correct them. But then, we make the same mistakes. And they say that, I don't know the intricacy of it, but, we do say that after death that we will improve. But once we get contaminated with material energy, we're back doing the same thing all over again. But at least Krishna is kind, that if we do manage to do some bhakti, that is in our spiritual account, that is there, and we can carry that account to next life and use it and expand it even more. And I guess we must have had some spiritual account before that. We came to Krishna consciousness, we came to the right place, and we're taking the right advice. But it's up to us to work with that advice. We can hear it, we can hear scriptures, which is great. That's part of our devotion service, hearing. So we're doing that, and chanting. So absolutely, we're on the right tracks, and we just got to let go more and more and attach ourselves to the spirituality. Thank you, Mataji. So Jai Prabhu is just listening today. Praveen Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Danvat Pranam. Thank you. Eye opener again. So I'm just thinking how we are trapped in the vicious circle. So we just have to have the mercy of spiritual master again, the importance of spiritual master, how Narada Muni helped him to get out of this material life. So we have to follow the orders of our spiritual master and devote, increase the percentage. I think, does it have to be 100%, Prabhuji, to get out? Because I'm thinking, because we're not doing it, like I'm not doing enough. So then I'll still be trapped. So it has to be 100% to get out of this vicious cycle. So we're still trapped with desires, although I feel like I stopped having desires for jewelry or sarees, but now again, I start to think, oh, I need more new sarees, So it's hard to get out, because I was thinking I'm getting out of it. I'm not bothered about material things now, but they still come back. So it is a bit worrying. So have to meditate more on Manamana Bhagavad Bhakto, how Krishna, he is giving us the guarantee, just think of me and you'll come back to me. So the only way is association of devotees, to be with like-minded people. But then saying that, I realize even some senior devotees who are in the movement for many years, they are still into material things, Prabhuji. So I think, then it is hard, because when you see other people, they say, oh yeah, I need this as well. But I think I should only look at the positive things. So look at the bhakti rather than other things. So it is up to us. Yeah, so we have to be more devoted and try to transcend the three modes of material nature. Otherwise, we will be trapped here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Krishna sees our endeavor, our sincerity. See, end of the day, we can only try.
Mm-hmm.
We not, material energy is very, very strong, Mataji. Krishna says that material energy, he even admits that these three gunas of mine are very, very powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can only do so much. We are weak. We are weak in the mind, weak in the, especially in the Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
We can only do so much. But if we are sincere, we're sincerely doing our best. That's all we can do. We can sincerely do our best. We might not be strong as we're not as strong as material energy. Always the more we try, the more it tries to trap us and hits us in our weakest points. He knows our weak points, right? So we can only do our best, and then it's all about the causeless mercy. We are not capable of doing 100%. No one is. So we need our endeavor, and then we need that causeless mercy from Krishna as well to pull us out of this. So that we can't do it by ourselves. It's like Damodar month coming up soon. So our 2 inches of rope was short, endeavor, mercy, endeavor, mercy. They go side by side. The more endeavor, the more mercy we will get. So yeah, we will need help. Definitely, we will need help. But what are we bringing to the table? We have to bring something ourselves. We cannot rely totally on Krishna's mercy, because if we're not trying, then why should he? Well, you don't want to come back home. Why should I? You left in the first place. We are of that spiritual world. We left. If we don't want to come back, then what's the point him taking us back? We have to be serious that yes, Krishna, we've had enough of this material cycle. We want to come back. We know our constitutional position. We know what we should be doing. We know we're not actually this body. This is just temporarily given to fulfill our crazy desires that we somehow developed. So we want to come back. So he will give the mercy, and he will give the extra bonus marks.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember the word. I said sometimes you don't do well, but then you get the extra, and then it is our endeavor and desire. Krishna will see. So all we can do is keep our thoughts in check all the time. So what we're deciding, and so keep.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving hope. Yeah.
There is hope, Mother. So it's not just the material energy. I mean, we have got so many enemies. If you call them enemies, so they can be our friends. We have material energy that is, we have this mind which can be a great enemy. So what chance do we have? Really, and we have to live as grihasthas as well. Right? We have grihast life, and we have to live. Try and live as normal life as possible. So really, we need that mercy. So we pray. Let's pray for the mercy. Do our endeavor, and at the same time, pray for those. That will actually help us becoming over proud. Anyway, we think we can do it ourselves. Then we're proud. Oh, I can do this. I'm very good. Better than a lot of senior devotees because I can do this and they can't do it. So we have to always take the humble position, always be grounded, and ask Krishna for help, because we really can't do it. Mind is very strong and material energy is very strong. We can't do it, but we must be seen to be trying. That's the thing. That's the key. And then Krishna will give his mercy and take us back. That's the way.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. So thank you.
Yeah, thinking. Sorry, Prabhuji. Yeah, on the example of the child, they say, the child because okay, he's innocent but not liberated because his senses are not developed. But then I always think, like, I look at my grandson, because he doesn't know anything. It's like his mom and dad, they are trying to make him passionate and everything, or ignorant as well, So because they are giving him all these things, material things. So is it not us really who make the other soul conditioned really by giving them material things and telling them, oh, you can do this, and we can go on holiday, we can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. We all been through it. We do undo what's been done. I guess we are. So this is why, if you are a good devotee and you did not succeed in this life, you are given another opportunity in the next life by taking birth in a devotee family where you will have more opportunity. But generally, 99.9%, yes, you are, asked to run after material things, right? Everything material. That's we are all in the mode of passion. If not ignorance, we're mode of passion. We are passionate about things, and we want to accumulate, and we're competing with everyone. We're in a competition, in a material competition, whereas we should be in a spiritual competition. Everybody wants the kids to do better than the other kids, and they want to have the bigger house, bigger car, better clothes, everything. We want to be better materially, but we should be thinking about being better spiritually. That's
yeah. I just wanted to quickly share about my guy. He's only turned 3, so when I went, then he said, "Nani, look, Krishna," because they've got a sticker on the fridge. And then I went in and he picked up Bhagavad-Gita and he, Nani, read this. So I was so happy. Then I said to my daughter, look, I'm not telling him. So don't start saying, stop preaching him. He wants me to read it to him.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
So then I thought, oh God, what do I read? Then I said, okay, you say after me. So I tried saying the first shloka, and he could clearly say the words, so which was very good. So yeah.
Well, they say that devotees carry Krishna in their heart, or they carry Krishna consciousness in their heart. So just being there, I think, has influence, and at least with the children, because they're not as much contaminated. It's all in reserve. It's not external. So you can influence them and control that. The reserve coming out. You can control it, because otherwise, we have so much reserve desires that they will start coming, and we want to fulfill them. But if you put Krishna consciousness in, then the desires will be, will remain in reserve. If that makes any sense.
I think I'll have to listen. I was going to say, can you repeat that, Prabhuji? I'll listen to the class again.
Yeah. So I'm saying that it's mentioned that even a child is innocent. He has reserves of desires which will manifest with time.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that if they go more into spirituality, it will stop them, manifesting those desires.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Because it's mentioned that devotional service, it not only takes away the desires of material life, it also burns. It's like a fire. It also burns the seeds of desire. So a child's seeds of desire have not fructified yet, but if a child goes into Krishna consciousness, then those seeds will be burnt. It will ground him into spirituality.
Yeah.
But
like I can see, Prabhuji, like the attraction.
They might see that as wrong, that we are suppressing or taking away. We're not becoming competitive like that. I mean, it's like our Keshav Maharaj. He's so brilliant and he's doing so well in his spiritual life, and I'm sure his parents expected a lot from him in the material life. But he's used his qualities for spirituality, and had he not come into spirituality, he might have been a great businessman or academic. Could have done anything. He's very high intellect. So, but he's used his qualities in spirituality rather than in material. Right? So he still managed to use his qualities, but not necessarily in the material desires that might have been in reserve otherwise.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. So let's do a couple of rounds. Praveen Mataji, please do the first one, and if it's okay, Hina Mataji, please do the second round. Please, let's get a couple of rounds in. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.